Hi friends, welcome, welcome. Kim here, Abundant Life Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I love this time of year because I love doing roundup videos. I love to discuss my top tarot decks, my top oracle decks that I bought this year. And oh my gosh, you all have to stay tuned. I don't know yet if I'm doing my haul video as a live stream or as a video, but stay tuned. I bought like 22 decks in 2025 and only 5 tarot decks. So those videos or live streams will come later, as will my very short wish list video. So stay tuned for that, okay? Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification buttons and all of the bells and whistles so you get notified, because this is that time of year where I'm cranking out these types of videos. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top tarot decks that I was loving on, using, and connecting with in the year of 2025. And I've been doing these videos since the start of my channel. I want to say since 2017. So I've been doing this a while and I never get tired of doing them. So without further ado, let's get into my top tarot decks for 2025. These are the ones, friends, that I've been using. And you're probably saying, well, how do you just, what do? You keep a list? Oh yeah, I keep a list. I keep spreadsheets month over month of the decks that I use. Every time I use a deck, I add it to my spreadsheet, and then I analyze the data in December to determine what decks were in rotation or what decks that really stood out to me. So there's a method to my madness, friends. There's a method. So now, without further ado, let's get into these decks. Okay, so this one is just an honorable mention, but I have to share it with you because when I create lists like this, I want to make sure that I include decks that I am using and using a lot. So I gotta mention this one. This is the US Game Systems Smith-Waite Borderless Tarot deck. I've had this particular copy since 2017, maybe even 2016. And I use it still. Look, it's still holding up well. And for some reason in 2025, I just felt called to use it. Like in many of my client readings this year, I just keep it in my box. And at the end of the video, I will include a picture of where I store my working decks. Those are the decks I keep right nearby me. So that way I could just grab them and get to work on client readings, because many of you know I'm a professional card reader. This is what I do day to day, probably 5 to 6 days a week, right? So I have to have the decks nearby, and this is the one I always go to. There is finally some creasing. You'll see it there. See it right there. But it's still holding up really well. And, you know, there's something to be said about going back to the basics when you're reading cards. And the clients, you know, they are like, oh, how cool. You know, she must know her stuff. She's using the traditional tarot deck. Now, don't get me wrong. Y'all know I have a gang of tarot decks that I could choose to work with. And I do from time to time for clients. For myself, I use all sorts of decks, you know, when I'm doing readings for myself. But for clients, I really just felt this call to work with my more traditional decks this year. Let me know, were you called to go back to the basics? Did you work with the Marseille deck this year primarily? Were you working with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck or Thoth? What decks, what systems were you called to work with? Now, I learned tarot using the Rider-Waite-Smith system primarily. Yes, I've dabbled in other systems, but this is my homeschool system that I feel very, very comfortable with. My readings are anchored in the knowledge that I have from when I was heavily studying on, you know, becoming a reader, you know. So I just love it. I love grabbing it. It reads so well for me. It is literally used almost every single day in my reading practice. I keep 2 working tarot decks, you know, in my little storage system. You'll see that after a while. You see at the end of the video. And this is usually one of the two. You know, this is usually one of the two. So I have to be frank with you. This is an honorable mention, but only because I talk about this every year. And so I should mention it because that's me being my authentic, true self and sharing what I work with all the time. All right, let's move on to the next deck. All right, so my number 10 deck is the Tarot of Oneness by Robin Voisey. And I remember when I got this, I think I got it for my birthday a couple of years ago. And I primarily use this deck for readings for myself, but I have used it for client readings, usually like career or life purpose or spiritual readings. But on occasion, I've used them for love readings. And then for readings for myself, it's more spiritual based type of readings, connecting with the divine and receiving divine messages. And I'll show you why this deck works well for that. Here are the backs. This deck is really special to me because of the tropical feel that it has. It signifies for me my time here in the Caribbean, and it has one of my favorite motifs, which is the succulents. If you all know my channel or know my business, my favorite little motif is a succulent. It's the only plant I don't kill. You know, I can't kill. So there's that. But it shows it from the first person perspective. So, for example, here, you know, we're looking at the eggs as if we ourselves are looking down at the eggs. This is 9 of Cups. It's just gorgeous. Here's the 4 of Swords. Also very good for like self-care type of readings, self-love readings. Here's a bonus card, Synchronicity. I love the gilding. And for any decks that I have deck flip-throughs, even if they're really old, because my channel's kind of old now, I'll include the link in the description box so you can see the full flip-through. I'm not going to go through all of the cards. And I didn't pick out cards. I'm just kind of at random pulling them. This is another bonus card. It's the Life Force Energy card. Every time I read with this deck, I have such profound insight that comes through. And I love it. Here, look at that. This is the 2 of Cups. And when I use it in love readings, I love that it takes the focus off of the other person, because, you know, when you're working with, say, let's just say this deck, you're looking at it from the vantage point of I'm looking outward, and it's almost like, okay, the answers are out there. When I'm looking at it from this perspective, I love this perspective shift that the artist did. It's like I'm reclaiming my power, my voice, what is mine to do in this love situation, this relationship matter, right? What is mine to do? Even in career readings, what is mine to do? Look at the Devil. Oh my goodness. I love that Devil. Ace of Cups. It's not too animal heavy. Sometimes, you know, I get turned off with too many animals. I know some of you love full-on animal decks. No problem with that. And I do have a couple of animal decks, but for my tarot decks, I really do prefer to have a balance of humans or objects and animals. That's Temperance. Look at Temperance. Oh my goodness. I'll show you a few more. Here's Death, Rebirth. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, it's one of my favorite death cards. Here's 6 of Cups. Here's another bonus card. Higher Self. Let's see. Here's Ace of Swords. And here's 7 of Swords. Let's see if there's any more I want to show you. We have 6 of Wands. Look, you are the star. Okay, you are the star. They are taking pictures of you, paparazzi all up on you. And I think, and one more, 5 of Cups. Looking out that window pane. Yes. It's a really, really good deck. And it, to me, is a bit underrated. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. You know, it is an indie deck, so maybe it's not always, or maybe it's cost prohibitive for people to get the deck. And now, with all sorts of heightened expenses with shipping decks and tariffs and all the things, it does make it a little more difficult to get decks. But let me tell you, it is worth it. It is worth it. And it comes with this lovely guidebook. And look, Judgment was sitting underneath. Awakening is what she changed the name to. And there is a gorgeous oracle deck that I haven't gotten yet. It is on my wish list. I just haven't gotten it yet because the tarot deck was what I was really, really after. And it's in my collection, and I'm grateful. But eventually one day I will get my hands on the oracle deck that goes with it. But it's a sweet deck, and I love it. And I did use it quite a bit this year. And I found different ways to incorporate it into my reading practice. All right, friends, let's move on to the next deck. Okay, so my number 9 deck is the Ake Boulon. I'm probably mispronouncing it. The Ake Boulon Tarot by Phyllis Santucha de la Fuente. And this deck, here's the card backs. It's a chunker, it's a big one. However, because it's more narrow, it's easy for me to still shuffle. I have average size woman's hands, so I can handle it. Some people may not like the size, but for me, I don't mind it. And the artwork kind of commands a larger card. So you'll see what I mean. But here are the card backs. I have done a deck flip through. I will include the link in the description box so you can see all of the cards, all of the glory of this deck. And I've been recently working with it again. Here's the World. Just felt called to connect with this deck, because I got it and I used it when, you know how it is. You first get a deck, you're using it, and then you put it on the shelf. Other decks come into the collection and things get lost in the shuffle. And then you're like, hey, I was getting to know this deck. And so that's what happened. And so I was like, what decks do I have that is melanated, or, representing of our beautiful diaspora of, the African peoples. And I was like, oh, I've got this little jewel here to pull off the shelf. So I'm going to pull off the shelf and work with it. Justice. Look at that. I love that. And I'm always here for an anatomical heart. There, see it? There's Death. So I've been bonding with it. And at first when I thought, oh, the size might be a little challenging for me, not just because of shuffling, but because I use bigger spreads. I use a lot of decks, tarot and oracle together. I was worried like, oh, it would take up, but it doesn't. Actually, sometimes I just work with just this deck and maybe clarify with one oracle deck, and that's completely fine. And because of the great card stock that it is, it's delightful to shuffle. And you can break it up in a section, like break it in half and then riffle shuffle it, or overhand shuffle. Here's Ace of Axes. Here's the Sun. It's a delight to work with. And I get accurate readings, and you get a lot with the imagery too. You get a lot. Let's see. Here's Nine of Staffs. Traditionally, staffs would be wands, right, or fire. Axes would be swords. Okay, here's 8 staffs. Son of Axes. Let's see. I want to see if I can find some of my favorites. Here's the devil. Love that devil. Just like I love the death card in this deck. Here's 6 of staffs. Just a beautiful deck, really and truly vibrant colors. Here's 2 of staffs. 6 of axes. I wanted to see if I could find one of my faves. Of course, the card that you want, it's always like well hidden, right? You're like, I want to show this card, and it's hiding. It's hiding in the deck. There's the Chariot. Five of cowrie shells. Drums is water, I believe, and cowrie shells is pentacles. Here's Judgment. There's the Hermit. Oh man. There's multiple 3 of axes, which I like. I like when the creator, if they have a favorite card and they wanted to have different depictions and they couldn't choose, so they include them all, I'm here for it. You can always take them out of your deck if you really wanted to. I don't. The Lovers. I love the concept of the crossroads. That, you know, the decision that you have to make being depicted in this Lovers card. So that's a smart way of interpreting the Lovers. Here's the Moon. Of course, my favorite card is hiding. Oh, there it is. 2 of axes. Oh, God, I love this one so much. I think this is what drew me to this deck, was that card right there, you know, that particular card. So yeah, that's one of the decks I've been recently connecting with within the last like month or so. I've kept it in my working deck box so I can make sure I grab it and continue to practice with it. All right, let's move on to the next deck. All right, so number 8, which it probably should be further up my list, but it's okay, is the New Era Elements Tarot. And if you watch like my mysterious readings, my Mystery Mystic Mondays or my Maritime Mysteries videos, you know that I really gravitate towards this deck. And this is the one I go to. This is the one I use. It's US Game Systems. And it's by Eleanor F. Piper, PhD. And I've had it also for a very long time. Early years. Here are the card backs. It's like the sepia color. I know it well. I work with it. It is elemental, you know, meaning that it has Mother of Earth, right? It, you know, 2 of fire. But that doesn't sway me. It's got a great little guidebook here. It's got a great little guidebook. And it never steers me wrong in readings. Ever. I used to use this deck a long time ago for client readings. But there are some cards in this one that could be a bit affronting, a bit like, oh, you know, take a person's breath away. And we don't want that. We don't want that, you know, depending on the type of reading I'm doing. So I scaled back from using it in client readings and now primarily use it for my mysterious circumstance readings. Even if I do private client mysterious circumstance readings, because yes, people do ask me to do readings that are not on the channel, but privately, right? So I will use this deck because I have a working relationship with it for that purpose. And it works fine. It really does read well in all types of readings. But you know, you have your decks that you like to use for different types of readings. This is 7 of water, and the keyword is illusion. Here's the Fool. I guarantee you that the flip through video that I have that I'll link in the description box is old, so I'm just giving you fair warning. But if you want to see me work with it, see how it works, watch some of my tarot readings that I do in my mystery mystic readings, and I have a whole playlist of those, so you could see me in action with the deck. Okay, here's Father of Air. It's a really good deck. This one is one of those cards that I would say I wouldn't be comfortable if it came up in a client reading. Sure, I can navigate it and explain it in whatever, but you know, you got to be careful with some of the decks. It just depends on your client too, you know. The Devil. This is the Devil. This is 5 of Air. Yeah. Another one. This one is, you could pause here if you have a weak stomach, okay? And then just pick back up in about 10 seconds. Oh, this was 9 of Fire, actually. Where is, oh, never mind. This is 9 of Air. Cruelty. You see what I'm saying? So it's not one that I always like to use with clients. 8 of Water. Despair. There's 3 of Water. So that is the New Era Elements. It is one of my favorite decks, and I've used it a lot over the years, and I especially used it a lot this year and last year because why? I've been working hard at my series over, you know, with the Mystery Mystic Mondays and Mystery Mystic Musings and all of the things. And now my Mystery Mystic Paranormal series that I've got cooking up. So you'll definitely be seeing more of this one. All right, so this is deck number 7. And this is Chris Ann's The Muse Tarot. And I love this deck. There were times when I first got it many years ago, I used it all the time. And then I ended up getting the mass market edition and using that one even more so. And then when I got ready to relocate from the US to the Caribbean, I sold the mass market and kept the indie edition because this is the Kickstarter one. Let's see. I was backer number 1,585 out of 2,000. It's signed by Chris Ann. I'm a fan of Chris Ann. I hear she's working on some new decks. I can't wait to see what she's cooking up. So yeah, I got back to using this one this year for a good chunk of this year, using it in my readings that I do weekly for my membership on Ko-fi, my Poised to Leap membership on Ko-fi, for my peeps over there, those who are, you know, wanting that inspiration. This deck has been wonderful for that. And just, you know, readings. Sometimes I use it for readings for my clients, like my business client, like readings for businesses or career readings. It works, again, very well for all types of readings, but I found it to really speak to those readings that are asking you to think outside the box, you know. Here is the Death card. Isn't that gorgeous? So gorgeous. Here's Justice. Here is the Muse of Materials. Materials being pentacles or representing earth. Here's the Chariot. It's gorgeous. And did I show you the card backs? Oh my gosh. And I know I did a deck flip through. I'm pretty sure. I may have done a video where I compared the mass market with the indie. I don't know if I did its own separate little flip through. I should have. But this year I said, I really want to start connecting with some of the decks that have been sitting on my shelf for a while. And so I grabbed this one and I found that it reads so well. And Chris-Anne is such a gem of an artist, and I want to support. And I can't wait to see what she's working on. I don't know if she's showing images. With everything going on with AI and deck creation, I could understand that she may not want to be so open with the creation process. So I kind of like the element of surprise for myself as a deck collector and a tarot reader. I'll just wait till she releases it because she has to protect her creations. It's become quite challenging for those artists who are really trying to earn their way as they pour into their creations in this creative process. And it's like blood, sweat, and tears. And then the artwork gets taken or stolen. So it's different times we find ourselves in, And you have to ask yourself, are there ethical ways at which you can do AI decks? Some people argue yes. Some people argue no. And I don't, I'm still working my way through it. Let me know your thoughts. We don't have to get into a big old debate about it. I really, really am curious about people's thoughts about it. But I've been seeing some AI decks. I'm like, oh my gosh, no. It's like, what are you doing? And then there are some that, you're like, wow, okay. So really, I don't have the answers. Look at the star. Oh my gosh, she's making so much noise. I normally like to do these videos late at night when no one's up but me. Even in the town, it's like everybody's asleep. Here's the devil. Eight of materials. Five of voices. Voices is swords or air element. Knight of inspiration. So yeah, been loving on this deck, and I am so happy that the gilding is like it's holding up even with me using it more this year. Look at it. There's only a little wear at the edges here, but it's still holding up. All right, let's move on to the next deck. So this one is deck number 6 on my list of decks that I used. They were part of my working deck collection. Just a very small working deck. I think I can only fit 16 decks in there, and 2 of which are tarot. So very short list when you think about it. I don't even know how many decks I'm sitting on right now in my collection. I have the number because I keep spreadsheets, but as I mentioned at the top of this video, I purchased like 22 Oracle decks and 5 Tarot decks this year. And I just threw them on my spreadsheet. I didn't even look, didn't analyze, none of that. It's not what this video is about anyway. So, I don't know. It's like maybe 250 decks. We'll just say 250 decks I have in my collection, which I know is not a lot compared to some of my friends who have thousands of decks. So it's kind of smallish, but for me, I never anticipated having a lot of decks like that, especially living abroad. It didn't make sense for me to be all deck heavy, but here we are. This little gem right here, Echoes Through Time by Lynn Thurman, has been such a delight to have in my collection, and I am loving it. I love it so much. And there's, I think it's the Rebel Tarot that I want to get. Now, shipping cost is out of this world. Like, it's expensive to ship from, I think it's England, right? Or the UK. And I'll probably wait till my birthday to justify the expense. Splurge for my birthday. It has this little, little key pamphlet here for the keywords. And then let me show you the gilding. You know, I love me a matte gilding. When it's done right, it's just, oh, it's such a nice touch. When gilding is like cheap, or even if the creator spent a lot on it, but it's like flaking and everything, and then I can be a little rough with shuffling, then the deck looks cheap and used before its time. And I don't like that. But this has held up well. Ace of Wands. It really has. The Hierophant. We've got the modern times blended with the ancient times. And it's like this beautiful collision in this tarot deck. For example, this one. So, Three of Wands. You know, it looks like she's waiting for her flights. You know, or you see the flight board up there. She's got her suitcase. But just before that, we have a little bit of ancient times here with this Hierophant. Seven of Wands. Page of Wands. Eight of Wands. Two of Cups. Ten of Swords. Ace of Swords. Now I like this. Queen of Wands, and she's sitting on a box that says, freedom takes courage. Doesn't it? Yes. Knight of Cups. And the Moon. I'll see if there's any other cards I want to show you. I love the Three of Pentacles. But it really is, it's got this wry sense of humor in the readings that I do with it. And I have used it in client readings, and it reads perfectly. When I do when I'm a guest on a person's channel, or I haven't done that in a while, or if I did live readings or something kind of unorthodox or outside of what I normally do with my tarot, I like to get this one going. This is the one I grab because I can really go into different directions when I look at the imagery, as well as knowing my book knowledge of the key meanings for the Four of Pentacles. For example, here's the Sun. I'll show a couple of more. Let's see. I love the King of Swords. And Temperance. So that is the Echoes Through Time, and I have a feeling I'll be using it again quite a bit in 2026. Okay, so this one's deck number 5, and it is the Low Country Gullah Tarot. And it is, I would say, not a little controversial. I would imagine that it could be controversial for some because I believe this is an AI generated deck. Okay, full disclaimer there. At the time when I got it, I wasn't sure of that. And it's created by Street High Priestess. Wait a minute. Yeah, Street Priestess Tarot. Etsy has the decks. When I got the deck, I didn't know that it was AI, but it ended up being one that I worked with just fine. Here's the backs. So some people say they can't work with AI decks at all, while others say, the decks work fine because we are the oracle, really, right? And then others be like, I don't want to work with them once I know that it's AI. And others like, I don't, it's neither here nor there. I'm going to still work with the deck, So everybody I've noticed has been all over the spectrum with this topic. And I do use this deck from time to time. Do I always grab for it? No. But I do use it from time to time, and I do enjoy the imagery. Here's the Eight of Pentacles. Strength. Ten of Swords. I think what's important is that it be disclaimed, that it's clear, and to say how you sourced it and how you sourced your artwork. But that would be something I would like to see as a bare minimum with using AI in our tools. At the end of the day, I've just come to the conclusion that I really just want to stick to original artistry. And so this is going to be a little more challenging to find decks that do that, because even mass market decks are using AI and they don't always disclose. The mass market companies don't always disclose it either. So it's not so easy. It's a little tricky. So that's why I get excited for tried and true artists that I've gone to in the past to purchase decks, and they're creating a new deck. I can trust them and trust their projects, right? I mean, anybody could change their mind and start using AI, I suppose. But, you have a working relationship with an artist, you could be like, okay, this is a safe bet. This is the Hermit. Oh my goodness, I love that Hermit. He looks like he could be my grandfather. Eight of Wands. And it reads well. I've used it a lot at the earlier part of this year for clients. Readings for myself. Quite lovely, this deck. Here's the Emperor. Husband is chopping veggies. If you hear noises in the background. The Chariot. And, my family's from the South. I do have some ancestry in the Carolinas, in the, the Gullah, Low Country. My roots, according to Ancestry.com, but it was like, oh, this reminds me of when I go back to the South to visit my family back in the day. It was just a nice throwback feeling, that nostalgia when I look at these images. Let me see, here's the Star. And yeah, it's got the key meanings written there. Some people wouldn't like that. But I suppose what you could do is you could trim this off and then have a smaller deck, and you can round off the edges there if you really didn't like the keywords. I'm not bothered by that. Here's the Eight of Cups. So yeah, that is the Low Country Gullah Tarot. So this one is number 4. Right? Double check. Yes, it is. This is the Magical Nature Tarot. Oh my goodness. When I was talking about original artwork, this is what I'm talking about here. Okay. And I also got the guidebook. I forgot to mention with the Muse Tarot from Chris Ann, I paid the extra on the side and got the guidebook for it too. I'm that one that I like to get the guidebooks if I can, like if their books are sold separately. I end up trying to get the book. That's what I like to do. And so I did that here. Oh, I love the guidebook. Oh my goodness. Let me just show you, for example. I was working with the Hermit because we're in the year of the Hermit. So I used this as a little bookmark that came with it. She sent a little card. Personalized touch. It's a lovely thing about getting indie decks and supporting indie artists. You feel like you are getting an exclusive piece of artwork. They add personal touches and you feel really connected with the artist. And so here's the guidebook. Oh. But let's get into the cards, shall we? This is like natural paper. I don't know what else to call it. Like earth happy paper. You know what I mean? And the paints that are used are also earth friendly. And I really like this. This is one of those truth teller decks though. It's look at the card backs, isn't that gorgeous? And it shuffles like a dream. I have to show you. It's a truth teller deck. So what I mean by that is all the decks are truth tellers, but there are some that are a little more harsher or more like a little more abrupt with the messaging than others. And this would be that one where it's like, okay, You give it to me raw, give it to me straight. And it's, you know, knowing that, I know, okay, I can use this deck when I'm ready for it, for my own readings for myself. And then also when I have clients who I know are ready for it as well. So, you hear that? You hear how it shuffles? Normally, like when I get decks that are like, oh, it's good for the earth. Oh, I keep wanting to do it one more time. It's good for the earth, but then it shuffles like crap, or it's like cardboard and it's like stiff, and you're like, oh, this is not pleasurable to shuffle. Not this one. This one shuffles like a flippin' dream. Okay, here's the devil. Original art. Magician. And that's another reason why I want to really work with this one more and have it on my reading table. It'll probably be the next one that goes up in my, you know, out of my 2 decks I use. I'm probably going to still keep the Borderless Weight as one of the deck options, but this will maybe be the next one that I work with. This is the Emperor. Here's Justice. Great guidebook. We've got 10 of Cups. It's beautiful. I'm so happy and felt so blessed to have it in my collection. And I find that over the years, since I've started my channel, since I started really collecting decks, because when I really started buying all the decks, it was around the time I started my channel. There's been this evolution of my taste, and it's refined now. And that's why I don't buy as many tarot decks. That's why I only bought like 5 decks this year, tarot decks. Oracle decks, I have a certain kind of way I work with Oracle, so I buy more of those. And I use them. All the decks that I got this year, I end up using quite a bit. So it may sound like a lot, but I end up using those decks because my taste is refined to the point I know what I need. And my reading practice has grown to a point of, these are the kind of readings I like to do. These are the decks I need to execute those readings, and then I get them. I am not buying willy-nilly like I used to, you know, because what I get is what I need. Here's 10 of Wands. Feels so good in the hand. Here's Seeker of Swords. 4 of Swords. And the Fool. Such a special deck. Really, truly it is. Oh, here, I'll show you a couple more. Here's 2 of Wands. And here's Death. So yeah, that is the Magical Nature Tarot. I'm super glad I got it in my collection. I think I got it at, was it last year? Might have been last year. And then I started using it. It was like the end of last year, I want to say, end of 2024. And then I was using it throughout this year, but mostly for readings for myself or my private client readings, those who come through my website or through my Etsy shop. Not necessarily, I mean, I used them a couple of times on my hotline work, but primarily for readings for myself and my private client readings. And it tells the truth. Raw. Kind of like the art style. You know, raw. Wild and raw. Anyways, let's move on to the next deck. Friends, this one I'm really excited about. This is number 3. Number 3 for my top tarot decks of 2025, and it rightfully belongs in that place. The Curious Travels Tarot. Oh my gosh. It says it's by Arozier. Is that, I got that right? Well, that's what it says. I don't, but I know, like, at the time that I got this deck, it was at that little space where the mass market was picked up. US Games had just published out the, you know, mass market edition, and then there was still some indie decks remaining, you know, that to be purchased on the creator's site, you know. And so I was like, I think I want the indie edition. Yes, I could certainly get the mass market, and maybe in the future I will if I end up beating this one up really bad, but I have no regrets about getting the indie edition. Okay, so yeah, you don't have the fancier, or not fancier, but the bigger box, the nice luscious guidebook. I think it does come with the guidebook for the mass market. I have a PDF guidebook that I saved on my computer, and that's fine. I didn't get it for all of that. This is fine. You know what I'm saying? So here are the backs. The cardstock is just buttery. It's feels so good. Oh, here's, okay, 6 of coins or 6 of pentacles. Again, original artwork, and you have to respect that. It just feels so good to work with. There's some quirks and imperfections that are in the indie versus in the mass market. So for example, like maybe some of the borders are a little kind of off. I don't know if I can show it to you here. Like for the 7 of Swords, there's a little bit extra border on this side. And I don't know if you can see it clearly. Then on this side, guess what? I don't care. Because if it's indie and it's quirky, then it's all right by me. I like sometimes when my decks have a misspelled word. You know, some people are really bothered by that. Or there's something wonky. Now, if I can't shuffle a deck, then that becomes problematic. If like the cards are uneven, that can be problematic for me. But if it's something like that, like the borders are uneven, who cares? I think it adds personality. And then I could be like, I have the edition that has the off-center borders. You know, so I'm okay with that. Here's the 9 of Pentacles. I love the colors. And I think what made me decide, what sealed the deal for me, knowing those things, knowing those little imperfections and quirks, was the coloration that I saw in the indie versus the mass market. Like I just like the saturated colors, and I like the blues that were in the indie versus the mass market. Here's 10 Pentacles. Here's the Wheel of Fortune. I love this deck. I use it all the time. All the time. For my Poised Sleep members on Ko-fi, I love using this deck. Look, you can really see that off-center border. Don't care. It does not bother me. I just noticed it because it's really prominent, because you can see the blue, you know, the contrast of the blue and the orange and stuff, and you see that white and it stands out. Here's 6 of Swords. And I use it for client readings. I use it readings for myself. I just use it all the time. All kinds of readings, love readings, career readings, life purpose readings, spiritual readings, all the things. It reads well. It just does. Here's Judgment. I have to show you on that one. It's a delight to read with, and it is one of those decks I'm so happy I have in my collection. You know, all of my decks I'm happy I have in my collection. They're all my babies, but there's some more than others that are my favorites, and this would be one of my favorites. Like, it became a fast favorite. Some, it's a slow burn, the connection, and others are like, we are instantly in love, instant attraction. Whoa. Here's the Devil. And this is the card. This is one of the cards that was like, I need this deck in my life. Look at it. Look at it. And when I was talking about the coloration and why I chose this edition versus the mass market, it was the 3 of Swords. And guess what? It has an anatomical heart versus like your little drawn heart. I'm here for an anatomical heart. And I was here for this shade of blue versus what I saw in the mass market. So that's why I picked this one as well. Here's the Fool. It just, right out the box, easy to read with, whimsical, such a gorgeous shuffling deck. And I used it earlier today. And I'm going to probably use it tomorrow. And that's how it go. And yes, it doesn't always go, because I'm kind of babying it, because it is kind of light colored, so I don't keep it in my little working decks box or container. I keep it in the box, but it's just right there, just in this shelf. And I just grab it and pull it out. It's still very easy to grab off the shelf, you know. That's the Curious Travels Tarot. Okay, this is deck number two. I was like, number 2. And it is When Women Had Wings Tarot deck. This is also a US Game Systems Tarot deck. And I got it and started using it right away. Client readings. Kept it out on my reading table before I got my little storage thing, my storage situation going on. I just would use this one, and it's really, really special. I know that people who I talk to have a copy. They feel the same. Look at this gorgeous guidebook. Oh my gosh. I think I did a deck review. I think. I can't be sure. Like I said, if I did deck reviews or did deck flip throughs for the decks I'm discussing in this video, they will be linked in the description box. But look, I love the guidebook. Oh, just gorgeousness here. And then it came with this little organza bag. I don't use it. I was keeping it on, like I said, on my reading table, and you can tell I use it a lot at the beginning of the year. Look at the roughed up edges. Used them a lot. And so what I ended up doing is I got this at the top of the year. Whenever it was released, I purchased it, right? It's card backs. And then I went to the US on July 1st. And I left this deck behind, and I didn't work with it for 2 months because I left it here in the Caribbean and I was in California from July 1st to September 1st. Look at the death card. And I didn't use it. And so when I got back, I didn't really grab for it like I was grabbing for it nonstop before I went on my trip. But look, holding it now, having it outside of its box, off the shelf, I'm feeling it all over again. I'm feeling it all over again. Here's the Hanged one. Just, let me see. Here's the Lovers. Oh my goodness. Here's the Devil. The inside of the box too. Knight of Pentacles, 2 of Cups, here's 10 of Cups, gorgeous 10 of Cups, 10 of Wands. Yes, the women have wings. The peeps have wings in here. Some people, I remember when I think I did do a deck flip through, and some people were like, I'm not really feeling the wings. And, you know, who would chat with me about the deck. And I was like, the wings don't bother me. I like the wings. The Hermit. I really like the Hermit. Let me see. Here's one of my favorite 2 of Swords. And here's the Hierophant. Temperance, Justice, the Emperor. Let's see if there's any others I want to show you. 9 of Cups. Magician. I do appreciate that it's not just, yes, it says When Women Have Wings, but there are men depicted as well. So it does feel a little more balanced with that. You know, I like to have both, you know, I like to have I don't want it to just be all men in my deck, all women. I like to have a mixture of all. Non-binary is fine too. I just need I need a mixture. For me. Now I know, you know, maybe I do have 1 or 2 decks in my collection that is all women, but preferably I like a mix. if I'm working with the deck with clients. And this deck is a little bit larger than, say, some of my other decks. Let me show you for comparison. So here's that Gullah Tarot, right? And then you can tell that it's a bit bigger. The When Women Have Wings. Can't get it straight. You catch my drift. But I still shuffle with it just fine. I still work with it just fine. Here's the moon. And it's a gorgeous deck, and it reads really well. And it's the cardstock that you can really easily shuffle. There's the World. So yeah, that's When Women Had Wings. And like I said, I used this a lot when I first got it for several months up until I went on my trip. Then I put it away and started using other decks. But now that I see it, and this is what these videos are really good for, is to say, oh, I forgot, I love this deck so much. I need to use it and keep it out on my table. So consider doing this video, this type of video, so you can get reacquainted with your decks. All right, we are down to the last one, friends. Can you guess? Can you guess what my number one is? Can you? All right, let's see what my number one deck for 2025 is going to be. Okay, we are at number one, my top deck for 2025 that I work with all the time. Can you guess? We got a drum roll. That is the Super Linares Tarot. And normally, for folks who have watched me for many years, it would be the Light Seers Tarot. And yeah, it would be the Light Seers Tarot. And I want to say this may have made it 1 year, but I retired the Light Seers for a spell. And for a good while, I compelled myself to work with different decks. Because I'm like that. Once I like a deck, I love a deck, and I'm going to keep using it over and over again. So, little backdrop, little backstory here. This is the Spark Linen edition, and I had the first edition, you know, with the rose gold and the rose gold gilding on the deck. I'm looking at it now because it's sitting over there because I don't know what to do with it. The deck was one of my top favorite decks of all time, right? And I used it, and I used it a lot. And then it was bent up, totally like just well worn, well loved, well used. But then it started to have this weird smell. And I was like, I can't work with this. I cannot work with this deck. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just eventually get the Spark Linen edition. Well, wow. What ended up happening, here's the Hermit, was the creator of this deck, the creators, this deck ended up going out of print because, you know, like the cost of creating the decks, the shipping of decks, AI, all the things have caused a lot of creators to just close shop, right? And it just so happens to close shop as I needed a new copy of it. And it's rare that I buy backup copies or do any of that. I try to just say, you know what, if it's meant to be, it will be. But I said, I got to reach out to the creator and ask, do they by any chance plan to mass market this deck or go mass market, or do they plan to do another print run? They were like, no, but if, you know, we come across any decks, we'll be sure to let you know. And lo and behold, the creators were cleaning out their, I think, you know, their storage or something like that. And they came across a couple of decks, or maybe just this one, and messaged me and asked if I was still interested. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm still interested. And so I got this deck this year. And this deck came with me. So I put this one away, right? Now, this one, because I was using this one tough. I said, I'm not going to travel with this one. I'm going to travel with this one because I know the Super Linares well. I took it with me to California because I was still doing professional readings from my parents' house. And I'm so glad I did it. I just reconnected and fell in love all over again with the Super Linares. I love this death card. It reminds me of the forest fires that tend to happen, you know, where I'm from, Northern California. But it's like death and rebirth and all of that, you know, regeneration that follows, you know, death and burning down things. And so anyways, I really like this death card depiction. And so that's the story of how I got my hands on it again. And so I'm now retiring the original first edition that I have because I don't know what to do about, I mean, it's beat up. I'm not going to even pull it out over there. I'm looking at the box. It's so beat up. And that just is a testament to how well loved it was and how well it worked in all of my readings for so many years. And I felt so lucky to get this one. And I really like the way this one shuffles. And if there's any way I can somehow repurpose or find a way to work with that deck, I haven't brought myself to get rid of it yet. I will figure it out and I will let you all know how I repurposed it or what have you. But yeah, this deck came with me to California. I used it all the time. I brought this one and the borderless weight. And I think that's also why I really, really deeply connected with the honorable mention deck that we started this video with and this deck. It's because it came with me, it traveled with me. It sat with me in long layovers. It was my ride or die in the client readings I was doing. I did a couple of readings for loved ones with this deck this year, and it never disappoints. So when people are like, oh, what decks do you recommend? I can just look at my videos that I've done over the years and recommend decks from these lists that I come up with. And I suggest that you check out some of my past videos. So if you're like in the market for decks and those decks are still in print, I'm probably highly recommending to work with them. I don't take this video topic lightly. I really track all of the decks I use. I really have analytical data behind. I used to be an analyst, so the suspended one. It's just, yeah, I just put it back in its box and on the shelf, and it was one of those situations like with the Lightseers Tarot. I had to compel myself, like, you have so many decks. Pull out some different ones. Play with your other ones for a little while. They're getting lonely, the other ones. So I did put this one back, but now I'm holding it again. And I'm starting to feel like, you know, it's like that kid with the security blanket, like, oh, I found you again. I don't want to let you go. So yeah, it's good stuff. This is a highly recommended deck that I share with you today. Hell yeah. That's it, friends. That was my top 10-ish tarot decks of 2025. And this was so much fun. It got me all excited about my deck collection all over again. Sometimes, you know, even if you're working with your tarot decks every day, you can kind of like get a little disconnected from it or from the community. I don't always watch a lot of tarot tube anymore. I don't really do a lot of tarot tubing videos, but this reminds me of why I was called to tarot tube in the first place. And I am so curious to hear from you. What were your top tarot decks of 2025 or your top tarot decks of all time that you've been working with? If you've done a video like this, please share it. Let me know you did. Let others know in the comment section you did so we can check it out and see what you love as well, because I'm sure people would love a good recommendation, right? Do me a favor on your way out. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. More to come with my top decks and my haul videos and my wish list. More to come. And share the video. If you know someone who's in the market for some decks, share this one. I got some recommendations for them, okay? All right, friends, you take good care of yourselves. I will see you all around in the next video. Bye for now.